All right, let's welcome in our injury analyst, Marty Jaramillo. So, Marty, let's talk about the most talked about calf in North America, perhaps the entire world, and that's with Joe Burrow. Again, he said that he tweaked it really late in that game, their final touchdown to T. Higgins. And so what are you anticipating when you hear that they're trending towards having him give it a go tonight?
Well, let's talk about what we know. In the summer, he had a moderate calf strain that essentially it's a 4 to 6 week recovery, and he came back on the earlier side of that. He reached all the metrics to give both the coaching staff, the athletic trainers, and the rest of the medical staff enough comfort to allow him to play for the season opener. But what did we see in the first 2 weeks? We saw decreased mobility, quite challenging at times for him. So he tweaked it, which means he took a step backwards, tore some scar tissue, which was laid down for healing. So what is he risking? If he plays, he can retweak it, re-aggravate that injury, possibly to the same point he was before the season, or possibly worse. He's going to give it a go. I am not surprised. It turns out internally there are two camps. One camp that wants him to shut it down, get 100% healing, and another camp that wants to give it a go. And I see they're giving it a go. Short term, if he restrains it, he takes one step back, and possibly keeps doing that for the whole season.
And that certainly is the risk, right? And part of it has to do with in terms of the thought process and the decision making is that they're 0-2. Now, they did come back from an 0-2 start last season, but as we know, if you start 0-3, the chances of getting back to the postseason are very slim. Let's go from who-day to who-dat. The quarterback for the Saints, Derek Carr. There was initially a thought, Marty, that the shoulder injury would be an extended period of time. Comes out, it's more of a, when you hear an AC joint, what does that tell you? What should our viewers take away from that?
Absolutely. Well, it's important to understand the fundamental difference between an AC separation and a shoulder dislocation. Essentially, he hit the ground really hard, driving the tip of his shoulder downwards, and then the collarbone comes up. So the collarbone separates from the shoulder blade, and that's by definition an AC separation. It looks like he had a grade 1, possibly a grade 2 separation, which can keep him out anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. And it's 100% a pain management issue, as it's not any issues with stability, which comes with a shoulder dislocation where the socket, the humeral bone, comes completely out of socket in a shoulder dislocation. He did not sustain that. Also, he also hit grass, a lot softer than turf.
Okay, and then, of course, that can be a difference maker there at Lambeau Field. Again, they play on that natural grass surface, so we'll keep tabs on Derek Carr. Let's get to a running back you and I have talked about at length. That Saquon Barkley injured that in their comeback win against Arizona. They did not play in that game on a short week in San Francisco. They get some time, an extra day on a Monday night game for them coming up next. High ankle sprain, though, was something I don't think you and I had officially when we last spoke. So, Marty, when you talk about Saquon Barkley, what's the outlook there?
Well, interestingly enough, during that injury, we were concerned about a high ankle sprain, and you and I did talk about it, but the initial reports was a traditional ankle sprain, but clarification came out and it was a high ankle sprain. So most ankle sprains occur on the outside of the ankle turns inwards, the ligaments are quite elastic. But a high ankle sprain occurs higher to that, where the two bones, the tibia and the fibula, is a horizontal ligament, very strong, also very elastic. Then that got stretched. Foot was caught underneath the pile, the two bones stretched, and also will heal quite well. Also week to week, once again, a pain management issue and not an instability issue. Only one tricky thing here. It is the same side as his ACL. So any type of metrics in terms of sports-specific, running full speed, cutting, will make sure that there's no instability, not only to the ankle, but also to the knee. Any inflammation of the knee can make the knee overstressed.
So Saquon Barkley trying to get his way back on the field. Again, the initial timetable as we take a look at that schedule was perhaps up to 3 weeks. But again, a loss to the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday. And now a primetime game back home at MetLife against the Seattle Seahawks. And let's end on another running back here. And there's another sort of interesting distinction, Marty, if you will. Report that Nick Chubb suffered a torn MCL, but perhaps that ACL may not be fully torn. So what does that tell you about his injury that he's dealing with?
Well, right now, those initial reports, diagnostics and testing extremely promising. But here's what we know. The MCL is one of the most strongest ligaments of the body. Rarely does it tear. So we know the force was the magnitude enough to completely tear it. That knee was in a very devastating angle, and more than likely when they do exploratory surgery to not only to repair the MCL, they will examine the integrity of the various other ligaments. There is some report that the ACL was stretched. Oftentimes they treat that just like a complete tear and will try to stabilize that as well. We are still looking at a full year out of football, and we've talked about this with these devastating injuries, Aaron Rodgers, Chubb. We can look at this as an opportunity, a year away from football, get your mind straight, get your body healed, and come back stronger and fitter than ever.
Real quickly before I let you go, I just want to reiterate, when you said, Marty, that even if it's not completely torn, they may still treat it the same. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a ligament that is partially torn. So we have less fibers for stability. So oftentimes they will, in the OR, decide to reconstruct it, and it'll be treated just like an ACL reconstruction. If you don't have all those fibers for stability, you run the risk of doing more damage to the knee if you do return in a stretched out ACL.
Okay. MJ, certainly appreciate it as always. Again, we'll keep tabs on Joe Burrow and that calf and his availability tonight.